Good evening and welcome to Hot Topics from the Soul. I'm your host, Dr. Valerie Parker Hagan, and I have my co host with me.
And good evening. What a wonderful Tuesday that it is. And I'm excited as we are entering to spring and we're ready to spring forth.
Yes, I was so excited about this being the latter end of March. We're going into April. April, I'm going to be so busy the whole month of April. I can't believe it. It's like every weekend, literally, I'll be having company or going out of town.
Well, that's always exciting. April is a great month. So many things happening in April. I mean, everything from, if you would, from Palm Sunday to Easter Sunday
Palm
to
Sunday,
different
Easter.
events. And we both will probably be in and out of town a little bit. I'll be in Jacksonville, as a matter of fact, on Easter Sunday morning. And I'm looking forward to that and just what this month will hold for us. And looking forward to be right on the cutting edge of things that are to come.
Yeah, America, we're the land of the free. America, where there's millions and millions of opportunities at your disposal. But together we shall stand. Divided, we'll crumble as a nation. We're up against so many opposition in this world today with so many things, wars and rumors of wars, and the destruction of our own selves within ourselves, fighting with ourselves. So much is going on, Dr. J.
You know, I go back to my days as a kid, particularly elementary school, growing up in the South. And we would get up in the morning and we would stand beside our desk and we would put our hand across our chest and we would recite the Pledge of Allegiance. And as a kid, they taught us, we were taught to value every word of that. And though being young, we did not know the full meaning of it. But when we said things like, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under
Under
God,
God.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Though I grew up in Alabama, Selma, as a small kid, I believed that that was a reality that could be realized. Although I grew up having seen Ku Klux Klans march in front of me, grew up in a time of racial upheaval, but I still had hope. And I'm not so sure, Dr. Val, that I'm not so sure that things are not even more intense as they were when I was a kid. Because
Mm.
now I can understand the divide. I can understand, if you would, the divisiveness and the viciousness that's going on. And I see the impact that it has done to our nation and what it's doing. And I think your words are exactly right. Until we learn to stand together, we are headed for self destruction.
Racism, discrimination, all that's learned behavior. So I don't understand why and how we've come so far, how things still remain the same. It's just in another level cloaked.
You know, anytime one exalt themselves above another, it is to minimize the other as not being enough, not being qualified, not being efficient and sufficient. Oppression of any sort will always cause this type of tension that we see, because no man, woman, boy, or girl wants to live in oppression, being denied opportunity and being denied equity. And we see that happening on so many levels, both on a micro level and a macro level. We see it happening in business. We see it happening in our interaction. I mean, literally, it is systemic, it is institutionalized, it is meant to continue to keep us divided. But the reality is that we all desire the same thing. We want to live in a world that is filled with harmony and peace, and the ability to pursue dreams, to go after things that makes us happy, that fulfills us. And that's almost impossible to do when
Mm.
there are others that are blocking our way intentionally, that are, if you would, constructing devices and barriers to keep us from pursuing and to achieving that liberty and that justice for all.
you know, there's so much that the news media puts out there that is enough to make us shiver from fear. And, every day there's something new that overtops this news and then overtops that. But we're still in COVID.
Mhm.
There's still variants coming out. There's a new one, variant BA2, which is supposed to be even more deadlier. There's some of the countries that shut down some of their areas because it spread, but no one's talking about it now because now we're dealing with Ukraine. So I want to keep before the people that we need to follow protocols and things that make us feel comfortable navigating in this new space, this new norm that we're walking through. If you feel uncomfortable, wear a mask. If you know you got a cold and you thinking it's a cold, it could be COVID, wear a mask. Protect
Right.
yourself and protect others because we don't know what we don't know. We think we know. Everybody's an authority now on this subject. And the truth of the matter is we're leaping and growing wings on the way down because nobody knew this was new to everyone. So I want to encourage everyone to still follow certain protocols of safety. Wash your hands, safe distance if you can. When you're out in restaurants, a lot of people aren't going back to church because they don't feel safe, but you go to restaurants. So, govern yourselves accordingly to keep you and your family safe. Because if you're out there doing your thing as normal and then you go back home to the nest and then you fester throughout the house because you're being careless.
One of the things that here in the United States of America that we suffer from the benefits of our freedoms. In other words, we like our conveniences. We like those things that have always made us America. And unfortunately, COVID-19 inconvenienced us. And it inconvenienced us in the most realistic way because it took out lives. It destroyed families. It took out loved ones. And yet and still, we've allowed this whole thing to become so politicized that literally there are people that have been willing to die than to simply follow protocol. There are those who have made up in their mind that, I'm going to do what I want to do anyway. But that's not fair to everyone else around you. It's not fair. And so because we are so eager for our conveniences, we will overlook the protocols. And guess what? We find that, as you said, I love your analogy there, because that one queen bee brings that home to the nest and everybody gets infected. And if everybody's infected and everybody gets infected, then who's taking care of who? Who's taking care of who?
Yeah, because people are still dying from COVID.
People are still
I
dying
talked
from
to a
COVID.
young lady today and she was saying that one of her family members passed away from COVID. And I'm like, oh, wow, right. We're still dealing with COVID now. So
Absolutely.
it hasn't gone away. And, just because you had the shot doesn't mean that it exempts you from catching it. You still can get sick, just probably not as sick, but it is still out there on the rise. It's running loose.
It is running loose, and we have to do everything we can to fight against it. Yes, whether it's vaccination, those of you, that don't believe in vaccination, I mean, that's on you. But at least do the due diligence of wearing your mask when you're out among people, washing your hand, being careful. Please don't sneeze on people. Don't be coughing over people. Keep in mind that their freedom is important as well, because it's hard to delineate where your freedom ends and another person's freedom begins.
Hmm.
And so therefore we have to all be our brothers and our sisters keeper. And that's what's important about this time that we're living in, because it is called simply, I call it the humanitarian reciprocation. Because you're human and I'm human, I owe it to you to be at my best and give you my best version of myself. In other
Hmm.
words, there has not been anything to show that wearing a mask transmit COVID. Wearing a
Hmm.
mask transmitted. But there's plenty of documentation that not wearing one, pass it on, if you would, through through whether it's saliva, through breathing, or through coughing, that happens. So we have to be our brother and sister's keeper. And that means the fact, look, let me do what I need to do because I don't want to infect you and I don't want you to infect me. And so that's where we go back to the universal precautions. And at the end of the day, I don't want to bring harm to your family. And I don't want you bringing harm to mine. So let's do what we got to do so that we can, that we can walk in this thing and get through it. We'll get there if we all just would simply come together, as you say, and make it work.
Yeah, the other thing that's been in the news about President Biden signing a bill or authorizing up to 100,000 Ukrainians to come into the U.S. And I'm like, 100,000 Ukrainians. I mean, I feel for them, but we have probably about that many that are homeless in the U.S.
Oh, more than
and
that.
and don't have anywhere to live and don't have any food to eat. So how are we addressing that issue?
Once again, it's amazing. I often say America is a very interesting history. We talk about being that place, the land of the free and the home of the brave. And we understand the people of Ukraine that are undergoing, just attack, being
Devastating.
destroyed, being devastated. It is devastating. But when the United States of America, they can't continue to be the rescuer of the world. They just can't. We're living in a time of COVID-19 because my question are each of these individuals going to go through COVID testing before they cross over? Are they going to all be vetted thoroughly to make sure that they are? And then your question, I think, is right. What do we do? We're dealing with a homeless situation and crisis in this country like we've not seen before. We're dealing with all these other social things and social determinants and health determinants that's going on in our society. How do we just automatically accommodate 100,000 more people? Number one. Number two.
And we just let in a whole slew of Afghanistan. And I'm like, how are they vetted properly to make sure they weren't terrorists?
Right. And so all these things are important. And so we bring this in, we have to understand not only that, we have to think about the economy as a whole. I mean, are there enough jobs to go around for the people that's here already? What happens now?
I think there'll be jobs because so many people during the pandemic have learned how to reinvent themselves and have created their own stream of income. So they've quit their jobs and then they've gotten this stimulus money. They've gotten the SBA loans because they've had businesses but they hadn't been able to get off of the ground because of the fact that they couldn't get SBA loans because this wasn't right or that paperwork wasn't right. And so during the pandemic, they were able to get the monies that they needed in order to start their dream. And I applaud them for doing that. But then it opens up another thing is that there are no workers.
So one problem ends up simply inventing another problem.
Mm-hmm.
And we continue to see that happen. And my concern now is the fact, does that number of 100,000, does it stop now? Or does it depend on how long this war goes on?
I forgot how many Afghanistans they had let in last year. So take the Afghanistans and then the Ukrainians piled in, and then we have American people that are here that are homeless and don't have any food to eat on a daily basis. How do we house our people first before you open the door and try and find housing for those? There are already no houses on the market to buy. The apartments, we talked about a couple of shows ago that there needs to be some type of limitation on the rent that they're charging people to live in places. And also, we need to find a way to attack those slumlords.
Absolutely.
There's so much into play, so much is going on that we need to address here in the U.S. before we open up to say, okay, we want 100,000, 200,000 individuals coming into this country. And then it's hard for people that are here to get their documentations so that they can travel and maneuver as a U.S. citizen. So how does individuals that don't live here are able to get these passports, able to get visas, able to get housing, able to get food, able to get finances, and we can't get it here?
Well, it goes back to that old portion of scripture: charity begins at home and then spread abroad. But these are the things that oftentimes angers individuals, because they're trying to figure out, how is it that I'm here? I'm a citizen of this country, and I find it hard to access resources, to access things that I need, and yet it's still in what we call a crisis, humanitarian crisis, whatever. We can bring over 100,000 people and other things, and we are going to make sure that they're taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get to have that same privilege as Americans if we went somewhere else. And basically, what we're saying now is that how do we find the right balance, the right thing to happen? Because this is going to create a greater problem. Where would they settle? Will they be all over the country? Will they be in particular areas of the country? No, how do we track this? How
are we going to vet these people that are coming in? Now, if I were there living in Ukraine and my city, my country was under attack and there was an opportunity for me to leave, I would be ecstatic that I would have somewhere to go like the US. Absolutely. If I was in the same situation. But my issue is not them coming. My issue is we need to take care of home.
Exactly. And that's
how are you able to get an apartment and I can't?
Definitely you can't. One of the things that we're asked when people apply on a rental application or even a home is they talk about the last place you live, the length of time,
and your credit.
Yes, and they have none.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we prove that, or do we waive those rules in order for them to allow people in?
Yeah, it just has to be a balance. It has to be a balance. And, here in the U.S., we are dealing with mental illness at an all-time high. It's been reported that 52.9 million people are suffering with mental illness. That is a lot of people, 52.9 million. That's like 26% of the population, almost, but 27% about the population. So, we're dealing with this crisis.
And it's not going away.
It's not going to go away because people are, their hearts are failing them for fear. They're stressed out because they can't provide for their families. They're stressed out because of the economical status that's been the brunt of weight that's been put on us to be able to have our credit and be able to have a job, a career. And what if you can't get a college education? There's so many things, so many oppositions. There's people that have lost loved ones that are suffering from emotional breakage in mental disarray because that individual that they once leaned on and was their support is no longer there, and they're having a hard time cope, and there's no resources out there to help them get back on their feet. And if there are resources, how do we get to these resources to help individuals? How? It's massive. It's not one or two individuals. It's massive. You talking 52 million people. How do we reach over 52 million people?
The stress of what we live in alone only compounds the situation. We're dealing with trauma on every level, and that's what's happening. And so we are looking to deal with the mental illness that is happening in America. And one reason that's exasperated because we have not had mental wellness here in this country.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many stress factors that goes on daily, things that continue to exacerbate even things that was once small matters grows to become large matters. And so This is why people have to be cognizant of what's happening around them, what's happening in our country. That's why we need to understand laws and legislations and bills and people we vote to that go there and vote for crazy stuff, or at least hold people accountable for things that they're voting for. We need help, and we need to know how to access help.
Mhm.
Don't tell me there's help for our community, but you put the help way down the street somewhere else in order to uh, to find access to it, and to so we now have to be smarter. We now have to be there for ourselves more and more. We're seeing people, staying home longer, moving back in with parents. With so many of our college kids are coming back home after college, not being able to afford to live any place, and now they're back home with mom and dad, and so this whole thing has become very challenging and complicated. Then you deal with that with all the other tensions that are going on. And what we find ourselves in need of in this country, we need a restoration. We need hope to be restored. We need
Mhm.
to find this little thing called truth and live in truth, because truth is a great companion of love. And when they walk together, they seem to manage things in life. But we're trying to achieve love without having truth. And
Mhm.
that's why I think we find it difficult in this country. We find it difficult to really to excel. But this is what our time calls for. We've got to excel now like we've never done before. It's time now to not major on the minors and not minor on the majors. It's time now to take the bull by the horn and go forward. This is as great of a time of challenge as is. This is also a great time of opportunity.
Absolutely.
It's opportunity time. And this opportunity like that right in front of us. For those that make up their mind, I'm just not sitting here waiting on what you're going to do for me, but I'm going to create some opportunity. Listen, sometimes you have to build your own table because you've not
Yes.
been invited to the table. So we're going to become carpenters and do what we need to, but we're going to build our own table, and we're going to let our faith guide us. We're going to let our determination guide us, and we're going to make it work, because the fact we understand this is not the end for us. Adversity once again introduces a man or a woman to themselves. For many of us, there's an introduction that is being made, and it said, "Hello, my name is," and we're reintroducing ourselves to ourselves.
Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely. So, when we're dealing with mental illness, we're dealing with the fact that we're still in COVID, and we're dealing with the onslaught of what's happening nationally. It's a lot. It is a great burden on the American people, but we have to keep our head up, and we have to participate in our own rescue. And what I mean by that is that we need to invest in ourselves, and we need to make sure that we do what's necessary to make sure that we have the right people in office that are making the decisions for us.
And that's so true. And it's so sad that people still take it so lightly to go vote, because they made the word go vote a cliche. And
Hmm.
yet still they don't understand the importance of those votes. There are laws that are being passed every day in our nation, our state, our cities, and we are oftentimes devoid of it. You think about it. Very few people go out and turn out for the local election, the municipal election, and those things directly affect them at home. They don't know what's on the ballot. They don't know what they're supporting. They don't know, and then they complain when things happen. It is time that we have our ears to the very ground and have our hand on the pulse of what's happening in our communities, because we've got to look at things that are happening from a holistic standpoint. On one end, we're being ran out of neighborhoods, and gentrification is taking place at an alarming rate. On the other end, we find ourselves not having access to resources that we should. And then once again, we face another situation. Now we're facing the sense of the economy. I went to fill up the other day, and I tell you, I was robbed at the point. I was robbed at the gas pump. $72.01 to fill up my vehicle.
Woo!
And I'm talking about regular unleaded.
And I was crying at $56 in my Camry.
$72. And I'm like going, are you done yet? Because it was absolutely incredible, and it wouldn't be so bad. In fact, I had just spent $37 over the weekend, but I understood that only got me to almost a half a tank.
Wow.
So we're
Wow.
dealing with
Yeah,
crisis.
I would be interested in finding out what the government is going to do to regulate some of these things as is happening with housing and with the gas prices. And also, when we have the influx of foreigners coming into our community, I want to know how it is going to affect us who are standing in line waiting for housing.
You asked a very good question, because once again, it takes me back to childhood. And I can recall when we would be standing in the line, everybody lined up, we're on our way to the cafeteria. And the one thing that made any of us upset is when someone skipped us in line.
Yeah.
We've been waiting all this time, and then someone skips us. And that's the way it feels. Unfortunately, this is not a blame. This is not a coming down on the Ukrainian people or anyone that's coming in, but it's just a, if you would, a barometer reading of the fact we feel like we've been standing in line for the longest, and now you come and you skip us. You get ahead of us. We've been waiting. We're hungry too. We've been waiting. We're looking for a roof over our head too. We've been waiting. And so you got to understand when that happens, we start thinking about, hold up. We've paid the price. We've endured. We've helped build this place, and now we find ourselves in need of things. And so it's important that we do hold people accountable, elected officials accountable. How are we going to do this thing here? How are we going to do it? How are we going to find equity across the board? And that's really the challenge that we're dealing with.
Yeah, well, we definitely need a lot of workers in the vineyard. Now, Dr. J, you and I had a conversation today. We were talking about the Grammy, the Chris Rock and Will Smith thing. And I said, well, I don't want to talk about that the whole show. It is all over social media. Everything is going on. Everybody has their opinion. And you were like, yeah, but, and this and that. And I said, yeah, well, let's save it for the show. Okay, so tell me what your thoughts are on the incident.
Well, here's the situation. There's multi layers of situation that happen. First of all, we have to look at the setting. We're at the Academy Awards, the Oscars, if you would. This is the highest award that recognizes the film industry, the movie industry. Mm-hmm. There are people who act all their lives and don't even ever get nominated. And we know the lack of having Black people to win these prestigious awards over the years. There's been outcries over the past years that not enough diversity as far as people of color even being considered and nominated. And we've fought those battles. We've come through those battles. And to have come through so many of those things only to see what should have been a crowning moment on Sunday to be, if you would, blemished by the actions of one who would end up being honored. Now, here's your problem. Your problem is this. We're divided among our perception of what is morally right, what is, in some people's mind, doing the right thing and defending the honor of your woman. And we're dealing with those type things. And in my opinion, let me just be quite honest with you. There simply is no excuse for what happened. None. You cannot give me an excuse, because what was said by the comedian Chris Rock in a joking way was not ugly. It was not in the sense of tearing her down at all. He made a joke. He talked about it. He acknowledged them and said, look forward to seeing you in G.I. Jane 2. Well, we understand G.I. Jane. We understand the G.I. Jane, the moving thing. And this is not. And I understand, and God knows that, that Jada has alopecia, and I know that. I've come to know that there are women I know that has alopecia. And I know that can be a sensitive subject, but you know what? Jada has worn her hair very low in time past before she had alopecia. She's always been a very beautiful woman inside of it. She's always been beautiful. Jada Pinkett was always my crush. Always. She was always, I said, okay, Jada, I'll let you have her, but she's always my crush. Until I found out that she had a lot of other crushes too, and that's a whole nother subject there going on there. But my point I'm making is very simple. We understand the backdrop of the Oscars, the Academy Award. Every time they've ever had a host, humor has been a part of it. This is not Chris Rock first time hosting. He's always, that's what they do. They make fun, they have joke, but it's in light. It was nothing malicious. It was nothing whatsoever malicious about what was said. It was nothing that was denigrating about what was said. As a matter of fact, when Chris Rock told the joke, right there, Will himself began to laugh. Because in his natural humor, that's what it was, just a joke. And then all of a sudden, Jada gets in her feelings. She rolls her eyes. I don't know how it's not a dog whistle to get up and go slap a man. Because that's not defending her honor. And I challenge anyone who would dare say that violence is defending her honor. No, not at all. I've dealt too much with men that are doing prison time behind bars because they thought they was defending somebody's honor. Men who tried defending their daughter because their daughter were in an actual abusive relationship, and they went to defend their daughter, killing her abuser, and now find themselves doing 25 years and beyond that. Now, there was nothing physical. There was really even nothing really mental, emotional, abusive that was said. We have to look at the content. Number one, if there was an offense, why not handle it like a man? Interesting. The same energy that it took him to walk up there and to slap him, why not walk up there and say, man, let me holler at you? Why not? Man, I need to speak to you. Bro, that ain't cool, man. Kill the jokes. My wife is sensitive about that. But rather than do that, and Will is one of my favorite actors. I love Will Smith. But he let me down. He let me down because what he did was coward.
I wouldn't go that far as say coward.
Well, guess what? In his own book, memoir, he calls himself a coward because he felt that he watched his father be abusive to his mother and could not and did not do anything about it.
Right. So therefore, he decided to do something this time.
But what he did here was coward.
So here again, we just finished talking about how 52.9 million people are dealing with mental illness.
Yes.
And what falls under the umbrella of mental illness is unresolved emotions that have plagued and infected the mentality of individuals that cause them to operate and do things outside of their natural nature. Oh, that sounds really good. But it is true. And I think it was a compliment, what do you know what I'm trying to say? So many different things that this isn't the first time Chris Rock has said something offensively. Every time he's in arena or doing a joke, he takes it to be his special thing to attack Will and Jada on some capacity. And I guess that night that was enough. That just drew the line, because hours before the award, she had got on and talked about the struggle she had with this disease. Rather he saw it or not, don't know. But maybe he assumed he did, and he took it upon himself to make a joke, and it also triggered after Will saw that Jada was hurt by it. You know, you're already struggling and going through something. So am I saying that he was right to do that? No, it was totally out of order. But what I'm saying is this is a clear example of what happens when people are under mental strain in some capacity or another. It causes us to react in situations we ordinarily wouldn't do. So in saying that, I think we need to all be careful. We need to all be mindful. And as I always say, participate in your own rescue, because of the fact that all of us are dealing with something, and how we handle it is how it's going to affect us to go on to the next level to empower or destroy another person.
And I hear that very plainly. But I will say this. You know, I've heard people say, well, the man just snapped. I don't buy that. Why do I know he did not just snap? Because he had 2 or 3 other emotions that he showed before he saw his wife roll her eyes and felt some type of way. I think that he felt powerless because he didn't know what to do inside of that.
I agree with that one.
You know, I think he could have looked at his wife and said, baby, don't worry. I got it. I'm going to talk to this boy after the show. But what is it that made him get up, go and assault a man? I mean, assault. And when I hear people say, well, and then what got me, not only did he assault him, but he then goes back, walk off the stage as if, hey, I have the right to do that. Sit down inside of it, and then start yelling, keep my wife name out of your effing mouth. He did that
Dr.
twice.
J, I blame it on the cameraman. I blame it on the award show, because those cameramen did not have to turn the camera on. Will they could have, because Chris Rock actually handled it like a gentleman. He was ready to proceed and go on, and the cameraman switched it and let it sit there. So their crew did that, incited it to be a lot more, and therefore that's why I think it spread to higher, larger than it should have. Because I guarantee you 99% of the people, including me, thought it was a joke, part of a movie stunt.
Well, we all did. I think everyone thought it was a part of a stunt. And the only reason that we did, because Chris
Because he
Rock,
could have punched him in his face and knocked him out cold, but he just slapped him.
well, we all know that a slap is the most disrespectful thing that you can do. Slapping is the most disrespectful thing that you could do. An open hand slap is more disrespectful than a person punching you.
I don't think he was even thinking about that. I think he was thinking if he punched him, he knocked him out, and then that would be more devastating on television. And I think for a moment he suffered from mental illness and forgot where he was.
I'm going to have to respectfully disagree. The reason being because I saw him. I saw him when
He
the
laughed.
joke.
I saw him laugh as a
He
joke.
laughed.
Yeah.
What was he in his natural element? He laughed like everybody else did. Watch this. You would have to know who G.I. Jane was to even associate it with it. If you have not seen,
I thought they were promoting the movie, that he was giving her a shout out for the movie. I
see that?
actually thought that.
Watch that. See that? Even you thought it was a promotion of a movie. Watch this. Was it embarrassment that Jada was suffering from? Not at all. He wasn't even dealing with embarrassment. This false sense of toxic masculinity that we feel like I got to go and, the whole thing about defend my woman's honor, that wasn't defending her honor. As a matter of fact, you did more to lower the situation because, brother, get it together. Either you defending her honor in this case, or you defending her honor when she's on her own Red Table show talking about all the entanglements that she's in and this crazy stuff like that. Who's defending whose honor there? Chris Rock gave no direct reference to her as that. Once again, the G.I. Jane. You have to understand the G.I. Jane character inside of that. Now, was that enough to go up and punch a man or slap a person? Not at all. That did not precipitate that. But when I hear people saying he defended wife honor, that wasn't defending her honor whatsoever. And then the other part that I think that is absolutely just really misconstrued is that when he gave his acceptance speech, and he's talking about lately he's been called to protect those that he loves. I'm like, oh my God, does he hear what he's saying?
No.
But then love will make you do some crazy thing. Do you not know that?
I actually saw a clip where Chris Rock was actually doing this skit, and he was talking about the crazy things a man will do when he's in love. And one of them actually kind of depicted what happened to him.
Well, here's the thing about it. And you know this well. One of the classic lines that an abuser, a perpetrator of domestic violence uses when he abuses a woman, see what you made me do?
Yep.
I love you, girl.
When is enough enough, and when is it when you've gone too far in any decision? Not talking about them particularly, but as we're talking to the audience that may be going through this or something happened to them. Let's bring it home to reality, not just.
And we welcome your comments there in Facebook land too. We welcome your comments or your questions there, so feel free to put them there. I think what we have to do is see truth stands the test of time. Truth does. When I teach anger management, I talk about the fact of being able to process. Will had time to process once again. Will did not start off angry at all. And I'm going to tell you, what we saw was not even anger there. It was embarrassment. He felt powerless. What do I do? Every step he took on his way up there to the stage, he had an opportunity to process. He did not have to do that.
He did not have to hit him. He did not have to hit him.
Once again, when he got that coach on the stage, he could have said, hey, man, let me holler at you. Kill the jokes, man. My wife is already going through. Chris is not that type of guy that's going to keep going in on her. But what I want to remind everybody, look at every show, whether it was the Academy or anything that Chris Rock or any other comedian has hosted, it's always comedy there. But it's lighthearted. It's not going at someone in a destructive way. And what I'm simply saying, if that can push your button, then where's your self-control? Because what you did then, you come back less than 40 minutes later and you win an award. And I think you tarnish it because this was the first time in Academy history that, listen, we had, I call it the trifecta. We had a movie, a documentary that was totally black produced, black everything, win the Academy. And then it has to be marred with this type of foolishness. And you win the award, Will. You win it. And yet still, we're not talking about the award that you won. We're talking about your behavior. Then we see even his son, Jaden.
We got to call ourselves to a higher level, a higher standard.
You've got to
We
understand.
should always, especially professionals as ourselves, we want people to respect us, but we need to respect ourselves and each other.
We have to think about those that paved the way for us. God rest his soul, Sidney Poitier passed just, less than a year ago. But it's Sidney Poitier and those individuals who paved the way for a Will Smith and others. It's the Denzel Washingtons, thank God he was there, who paved the way for these things to happen. And for you in your most crowning moment, to allow yourself to get to that place is unacceptable. And I'm not saying he's not human. What I'm saying, I'm basing the action for those that think that somehow or another that act was justified. I want to know on what basis are you looking at? That's not defending honor. I see it too often.
And it's causing division. It's causing a major division.
It is. And they went back to show
the blessings of the Lord make rich and adds no sorrow, no division.
No sorrow.
So it has definitely created a stir that should not have been.
I look at Will. Will and Chris Rock have had their own history, not a violent history. I mean, you go back and look at some of the old Fresh Prince shows, and you see that Chris Rock was once a guest. They've been there. These are not enemies. These are men that we've all looked at. We've all laughed at them all. We have. Will is an incredible actor. He's incredible in every sense of word. Chris Rock made us all fall in love with everybody hates Chris. We've seen so much happen there. And to see in such an element, because I look at it differently. I mean, first of all, look at who was hosting the Oscars. Look at that. I mean, who would ever thought?
Now, they were all comedians, but they did not make jokes directly at anybody. They did just jokes. And I think that's the difference. And that's what has so many people divided, is the fact that Chris Rock, anytime he has the opportunity to snap on Jada and Will, he finds a way to do it. And I think that was one level of enough that they had that created this whole shift in the experience that should have been a great one. So here again, I'm not saying that he was right. I'm not giving him a pass, but things do happen. And unfortunately, when you act before you think, even in daily living, you don't have to be a star. You don't have to be, before people, even as a motivational speaker, things happen. And what do you do? How do you pick yourself up when you find yourself in a situation where you went too far?
We have to think about, that's old phrase that said, think before we leap. We have to think before we leap. By no means am I here today condemning Will Smith.
Mhm.
I'm speaking to those that find justification in what he did. I'm speaking to those who could say somehow or another this was the correct response to a joke. And here's the thing about it. If I was being honest with you, it wasn't even a joke. It was an association.
Mm.
It was simply an association. Let me ask you a question. What's so bad about G.I. Jane? Absolutely nothing. Short hair. How many of our women wear short hair and they don't have alopecia? So it's something that was taken personal from that standpoint. But I'm saying for
But the
the million
backstory is they've been in the media for months because of her affair.
entanglement and
And
all
this,
these other things.
yeah, with all of that. So it wasn't just that; it was a compilation of
Yeah, it was a
different
culmination
things,
of all those things.
and it just snowballed. And like you said, Will got up there. He didn't know what to do, and he felt that he should protect her, and felt that he hadn't protected her from the media, and how all this got out. Now, how did it get out anyway? If it happened in their house, so it's like so many things going on. And just to hear that joke is like it was a he took it as a personal attack because evidently, like I said, we don't know the full backstory. It shouldn't have happened. I wish it didn't happen, but it did. How do we move on from here as a people?
I think Will need some accountability, people that love him and people who are not starstruck by him, people who don't worship him because of his accomplishment. We all do. We all do. Any of us that ascribe for position or authority or whatever, we need some people who will love us and tell us the truth. We need
You
some
know,
people.
I've worked with Les Brown for over 27 years, and
Yeah,
one thing he will tell you is I will tell him the truth.
and you do.
I don't sugarcoat. When he wrong, I tell him he wrong. When he has to do something, I'm like, hey, this is what this is, and this is how you need to do it. I don't sugarcoat it because it is my responsibility as his agent to make sure I protect him. So I'm gonna make sure I tell you the truth. I'm not one of those yes, yeah, yeah, yeah people because I want
Exactly.
to be in your space. It doesn't matter if I'm in your space or not. It is the truth that will set you free. It is the truth that'll help you get to the next level because you're responsible for so many lives in your hand that you have to make sure that you are above board and are beyond reproach.
And that is so true. And the fact of the matter, if you really love that person, you want to tell them the truth. God bless Denzel Washington, Tyler, and the other individual that went to Will during the break. But I do think that Will took the wrong message. He misinterpreted what Denzel was saying to him. He didn't get it. For some reason, Will thought that Denzel was saying, you know, when you get there, when the higher you get, that's when the devil really comes. As if he was insinuating that what Chris Rock said or did was the devil. No, no. You understand the enemy is coming at you because you are vulnerable, man. You're not guarded. You're not protected. And so guess what? You got to be very careful because to whom much is given,
Much
much
is
is required.
required.
Much is given, much is required. And what I want to see happen for Will is those that love him. I love him. I mean, if I had access to him, I would call him. I would say, hey, let's talk, man. I want to talk about what necessarily happened, but let's talk about all those other things that are in the background of it. He played the character of Richard Williams in King Richard.
Hmm.
I know Mr. Williams. I have talked with Mr. Williams. I have been in Mr. Williams' presence, and occasionally he'll call me. But I read something today. Mr. Williams wasn't very happy with what happened. He himself said no, violence is never necessary in those cases. So
Yeah,
when Will
especially you talking to a man that they knocked his teeth out and he still kept going, kept being persistent in his dream and his goal.
exactly, and so
And,
when you
and life is going to knock you down.
it
But
is
don't allow it to knock you out. Someone can physically attack you, but don't allow it to overpower you so that you forget and stop dreaming about who God intended you to be. And I think that's what I want individuals to know, is that you're going to get knocked down. You're going to get knocked down, but you don't have to stay down. Get up and start doing, because the greater person is in the inside of you. And when that greater person rises up, then you become a Pied Piper, and you will draw other people into their destiny and into their purpose. And they won't do it if you succumb because of the fact that you failed to rise up, because you were afraid of that hit. You were afraid of that swing. So you got to keep up, get up, and keep on moving in spite of what the opposition is. You have to keep moving. We can't redeem time.
No, no,
We can't redeem time. There's so many things that I wish I could do over and I can't. But
mhm.
all I can do is move forward and make the best life possible moving forward, to empower and inspire individuals' lives. And that's what we have to do, regardless of what situations, because life is going to happen to all of us
To all
in
of us.
some capacity of it. It may not be an incident like this, but life is going to happen. You may lose your job, you may lose your family, you may lose your home. Life is going to happen, but what are you going to do when it
You know,
does happen?
you're right. And Dr. V, I say to everyone that's listening, and particularly to our Black men, I want you to understand what the word honor means.
Hmm.
Honor doesn't mean that I have to get out of my character to prove or to protect. Honor means that I esteem, I hold up, and that's what's important. As I said earlier, I've seen men in prison that are there because they thought they were doing the thing. They defended their daughters or their sisters or their aunts because other men who were being abusive to them or disrespectful to them was doing so. But when I talked to them, they would say things like, although I did it, I lost my relationship with the very daughter I was protecting.
Hmm.
She didn't speak to me for 5 years because she said, Daddy, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to kill him. But hold up, I
Right,
was defending your honor. No, no, you don't understand that. That's not what I need you to do, because in the process of it, I lost him and I lost you.
hmm.
I lost him to death and I lost you to time behind bars. That's not defending my honor. You left me unprotected, but you thought you were protecting me. And so, as men, what we have to understand is that here's the real honorable thing. The real honorable thing is to be able to live another day. The real honorable thing is to be able to work some things out, to shine a light upon the situation. Because at the end of the day, whatever that's going on, I just wanted to stop, man. I don't want to take you from your family, and I don't want you to take me from mine.
Right.
I don't want to mess up your house, and I definitely don't want you messing up mine. So, bro, let's get an understanding here. Let's get an understanding. One of the most coolest things that can ever happen with us as men, especially, is the ability to communicate and to be diplomatic with each other and to respect one another. Man, I can agree to disagree with you
Hmm.
and walk away with great respect for who you are. I might not agree, but I'll leave say, hey, man, I respect that brother there. That
Hmm.
brother's solid. I respect him. And that's what we have to do, because all America needs to see is another episode of us going at it with each other.
Exactly.
But I'm admonishing everyone to pray for Will, pray for Chris, to pray for us all. That was a moment. That was a moment, a very high profile moment, and a very defining moment.
Very defining moment.
But hopefully we can turn this around through some real love, some real therapy, because I believe that Chris and will make up. They will have a conversation. They will do what I know real men do, because I believe that in both of those brothers, they're gonna get it together. And maybe there's some teachable moments we can all get out of this, especially us men. I just want to swash all this justification of violence, because it's not defending our honor.
It is not.
The most honorable thing that he could have done, once again, is simply stood up for, had a conversation with his brother. Because I'm telling you something, we all look at them. I laugh at them. I mean, Will Smith is a genius inside of so many things he's done. Creative. West Philadelphia, born and raised, and all that. He's been great. Chris Rock have overcome a lot of things in his life. They've made us all laugh. They've all been characters inside of things, and we esteem them. And so, therefore, we pray for them
But
that
at
they
the
do
end of
better.
the day, they are men.
They're men.
They are human,
Yeah,
just like us. They have
just
lives, they
like
have
us.
feelings, they have a mental capacity to fall out, be unstable. So life happens to us all. But as Les Brown
Second.
says, if you can look up, you can get up. So don't stay down there.
And I just want to say, for what it's worth, Dr. V, Will, if you see this, or Chris, if you see this, holler at a brother, okay? We can have lunch. We can talk. We can dialogue, man. I'm real good at de-escalating things. So, hey, reach out to a brother, okay?
Okay, so Dr. J, you want to give your information how individuals can stay connected with you?
Yes, www.jrthicklin.com. That's the way to reach me there. Also, you can always reach me at manofpurpose2000@gmail.com. And I always can reach me there. And I'm always so happy to interact with people. And because life is worth living, folks. And I love living life. And I'm at a different chapter in my life right now. And I'm excited about what's to come.
And you can connect and reach me and follow me on www.fromthesoulofAwoman.com. And I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Hot Topics from the Soul. And of course, donations are always acceptable. So we appreciate you if you subscribe and you like some of the topics we have, or you want to be one of our guests, you can reach out to me on soultopics@gmail.com. Soultopics@gmail.com is how you connect if you want to be a guest on the show or show your, because Hot Topics from the Soul is for the community to empower and inspire. And that's what we want to always do. Don't care what color you are, black, blue, brown, green, yellow. We don't care about your nationality. We don't care about your
Absolutely.
economical status. But if you have information that will empower communities around the globe, you have the opportunity to just share on this platform. And I thank you for joining us here on Hot Topics from the Soul. We're here because you're here. Good night and God bless.
Good night.